Okay, let's start with the tree you saw in the road.
She said it was a place that was everywhere, but you couldn't find it if you tried.
I always thought the town was the worst part. And then I went through the tree.
See, you were lucky. The sun was still in the sky when you got here. People came to help. Not everybody gets that. Those things out there, they like to hunt. They like to play.
Everybody here just talks about how afraid they are of dying. I don't think that's the worst thing that can happen to you here.
There's darkness in the forest. Nightmares again, isn't it?
It's all just a dream.
If we were never meant to see things that...
You said this place couldn't break you.
You don't fucking break me!
That's what you said. Do you remember that?
We don't have time for it. You think those things that come out of the forest are gonna do this? They're just the tip of the spear.
You can't go to sleep. Do you understand what I'm saying? Are you listening to me? The talisman will not protect you. There is nowhere that you are safe. No. Tonight, tomorrow, every one of you is going to die.
That was a hell of a song.
Knowledge comes with a cost.
Welcome back, and for some clarification, I did touch on this theory I'm about to present in my episode breakdown of Season 4, Episode 5. However, between the time of making that and making this, I did find a few more details that I think really solidify this theory. I also wanted to touch on a few more monsters like the Kimono Woman, which I didn't mention then. We're just gonna jump right into it. One of the first threats we see within Fromville are the smiling monsters that come out at night, ones that genuinely treat you with the utmost politeness until they're close enough to transform and tear you to shreds. And for a long time, it seemed the only effective tool against them was the talismans, though there are a few instances where the monsters do seem to be capable of moving these things. Like during the Colony House massacre, when they were already inside, they were still able to be gone by the next day. Now sure, they could have just gone out the window the same way they came in, but I believe another example of this that's a little bit better lies in episode 1. X family lose their lives when the little girl is tricked into opening the window for who she presumes is her grandma. The only thing is, right before this tragedy strikes, her mom does ensure the talisman is set in place downstairs. Yet the next day, after Boyd decides to bully Frank a little bit, when he comes downstairs, the talisman is on the ground, with the show taking a moment to really linger on Boyd checking this talisman out. Even if Granny had thrown it on the ground just to mock Boyd, she still was capable of moving it. I bring this up because it's just one of the many mysteries surrounding the monsters and how they function. And for some of us, it's been years since we've had any sort of concrete clues to help piece together any sort of theory. Even with the plotline where we were capable of defeating one, we still couldn't really piece together why or how. See, Boyd journeyed into the forest and ended up in a dungeon where he got infected with what some call worms, per what Boyd says, but what I believe was actually cicadas, put into his blood by the man named Martin. And after struggling with this physical issue, Boyd eventually decides to try and give the cicadas, or worms, to one of the monsters. And in doing so, the monster dies, with the rest wandering away from it. And while Boyd did attempt to use the monster bile to be able to coat some new silver bullets, he was unable to replicate the same damage he did the Smiley here. Yet now, with the most recent episode, we can finally start piecing this puzzle together. See, in the recent episode, the group is attacked by giant dolls, with one brutally killing Roger like he was checking for stuffing. And someone in my comments pointed out that it was almost as if they were checking for stuffing like Donna did to them earlier. But notice how malicious the dolls actually are. They could have easily killed Girly here instantly like they did Roger, but instead they decide to slowly burn her on a fire pit. But we do know the smiling monsters also like to take their time with people in examples like Kelly and Brian, where Kelly was impaled in the head and forced to watch her boyfriend Brian get tortured. which, side note, the first person Boyd ever watched die was named Brian Kelly. Either way, these monsters are very similar in the way they like to toy with their food. The only difference is, while the smiling monsters are a bit more clean and playful with their kills, the puppet's malicious nature comes off very brutish. This, outside of aesthetics, could clue us into the fact that the settlement is older than that of Fromville, and these dolls are more brutish due to being the first batch of wandering nightmares. And I do literally mean nightmares. As Tabitha reveals, she used to play with dolls that a man found very creepy and had nightmares over, only for that man to die and the dolls to become a real physical threat. And this whole concept of the dead's nightmares coming to life is oddly resemblant of Sarah's brother Nathan, who had a common fear of cicadas, which just so happened to infest the town after his death. These same cicadas were the result of Boyd giving the Smiley monsters his own blood, with them seemingly coming out of the corpse of a dead Smiley, and whether they were worms at one point or were cicadas the whole time, we know for sure that this is the body they emerged from. And if the cicadas are an actual nightmare come to life, it means the only way to hurt nightmares is with other nightmares. Kind of like a horror version of a kaiju fight, which honestly could be what the show is building towards with Fatima's golem. She claims that making this mud monster makes her feel strong. Could this be similar to things we see like the totem around the old settlement that was also capable of killing the dolls? I mean, we have seen Randall carving some wooden things that look very similar to these totems. It's even possible that the talismans Boyd found accomplish the same goal, somehow utilizing both their instincts from their past lives and also their beliefs that something will help to bring something to life that actually does help. If nightmares are a threat to each other, this could be the reason that none of the monsters actually end up killing Victor, because he's one of the few characters who probably has the most trauma dumped upon him just throughout his entire life. So it's extremely possible that whatever would manifest from Victor's nightmares should he die will be too powerful for anyone to handle. Another nightmare we can potentially see coming to life was that of the kimono woman. A lot of people associated the kimono woman with Japanese culture, but it's very possible it's associated with Chinese culture, and there's even a slight chance that this could be the manifestation of Kenny's dad's nightmares, as she really only showed up after Kenny's dad died. And honestly, I can't imagine any other reason she would exist within this show. The only question is, if a person with nightmares has to die for that to manifest, does the same rule apply for the protective artifacts as well? As in, potentially whoever had to make the talismans or the totems had to die first before they were actually effective? That would mean that Fatima would have to lose her life for the mud golem to finally become the protector of Colony House. I personally theorize that the show is building towards yet another Colony House massacre, potentially even having a similar outcome with Ellis finding a dead Fatima instead of Trudy this time. But with her dying, it's possible Ellis will get surrounded but saved at the last moment by the golem Fatima created. If all these things coming to life are based on someone's belief or even nightmares, where does that leave the smiling monsters? We do know that Fatima claimed the things that came out at night only became that way because they sacrificed their children to make a deal or a bargain. But with all these talks of sacrifice, I'm wondering if these images Fatima saw were actually fake in order to get her to slowly start building towards another sacrifice of another child. Potentially, the residents all reach the point where they think sacrificing a kid is the only chance to get out. This could explain why the town also eventually could churn on both Jade and Tabitha and their past incarnations. Either way, going along the assumption that Fatima was wrong with what she saw, I have another potential theory for why the Fromville monsters exist in the first place. And that's because they themselves are the manifested nightmares of a dead resident. And sure, we did see one of the smiling residents kill Miranda, meaning they could have been around before then, but let's also remember that some of the memories or flashbacks we see within this show are misplaced or not actually accurate. For example, Victor thinking Christopher was talking to a puppet, when in actuality he was talking to the Boyd in white. So who's to say that when Miranda died, she wasn't killed by the smiling monster like we saw, but in actuality, the man in yellow? We already know when Victor returned the next day, he did end up seeing the man in yellow eating Miranda. But even if that was the case, that still doesn't necessarily explain where the smiling monsters come from. Well, we just have to piece together some clues for what Victor's told us so far. From his perspective, Christopher was really nice until one day he became really scary. It's possible Christopher was desperate to get out and Miranda was just scared in general, and the townsfolk townsfolk turned against the both of them, as alluded to in the most recent episode. Whether that was to sacrifice both Victor and Eloise, or just take them out in general because they think they're a threat, who knows. But this would leave people like Victor and Eloise fearful of the rest of the residents of Fromville. With him passing off as a somewhat normal guy, it's possible that both Victor and Eloise saw him as just another one of the residents. And, assuming they were already scared of the residents who could have been going after Miranda and Christopher, who's to say that after Miranda left that night, when Eloise chased after her, she didn't stumble across the man in yellow killing Miranda, still associating the man in yellow with the rest of the town residents and solidifying her fear of the townsfolk as a whole, completely unaware that the man in yellow was a different beast altogether. But with these fears coming to life, and with Victor potentially being correct that Eloise also died, who's to say that fear of the town residents didn't manifest like the other one and turn them all into something somewhat similar and a weaker version of what she saw in the man in yellow? I mean, think about it. The man in yellow seems to possess the same powers or strength as the smiling monsters do, only he doesn't tend to transform before he kills someone. And that raises another question. Why do the monsters look different and transform right before they attack, as we also tend to see the same thing from the puppets before they kill? I believe this is actually because whatever ancient powerful being was capable of bringing these monsters to life potentially has one common aesthetic, and that's the aesthetic of the pure monstrous form they take right before they kill. And there's a chance towards the end of the series we'll see the true form of this entity, and it will look like a more scary version of the monsters before they attack. I mean, we have seen most of Victor drawings come into play throughout the show so far, including Boyd and Jade journeying down through the hallucination trip, yet there are several very scary figures in these drawings that we have yet to come across. Could these be alluding to the final reveal of the show with the entity's true form? Meaning essentially whatever dark cosmic energy is bringing all these entities to life is just basing its aesthetic off of the one who started it all, being the deity. To summarize, in Fromville, when you die, your nightmares come to life. Whether they remain dormant under a lake and or are just wandering in the forest, who knows, as we would likely see many nightmares wandering around at this point. That being said, the only way to actually hurt a monster, considering bullets and blunt force doesn't work, apparently is actually with another monster or nightmare. And with this battle of the nightmares, there seem to be some who find strength or belief in certain artifacts that actually do protect them in some way. And we'll likely have this confirmed if Fatima ever dies and her golem comes to life to protect Colony House. And with all that being said, the smiling monsters themselves were actually just the manifestation of Eloise's nightmares after bearing witness to Miranda being torn apart by the man in yellow, who, from Eloise's perspective, was actually just a regular resident. Her associating the fear of the already hostile residents with the absolute cruelty and malicious nature of the man in yellow, creating a version of the monsters that are slightly weaker than the man in yellow, but still inspired by him altogether. Either way, I know these theories are kinda out there, but this is the most sure I've felt about anything within the series so far, with the only real mysteries left being how to escape, who the Nkui kids are, who the Boyd and White is, and why there's so many spiders that we see throughout the show. And if you have any ideas for what these things could be, I'd be happy to hear them down below. Otherwise, it's seeming like we're just gonna have to wait a bit longer to really start piecing more of this puzzle together. But if you enjoyed the video, or even just disagree, I'm happy to hear why. And despite being wrong on some of these theories here and there, like the fact I thought for sure Ellis and Donna were cooked last episode, I think a lot of fans can agree it's just fun thinking about this stuff. The journey is definitely the best part of this story, and once the answers are finally revealed, I don't think everyone will be truly satisfied. And that's because From is very much a cosmic horror, and that genre never really ties itself to any sort of answers, mostly just mysteries. But I have a video covering that exact subject coming out sometime in the future, so if you're interested in checking that out, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications. Otherwise, I hope you guys are enjoying this season as much as I am, staying safe out there, and avoiding any fallen trees on the road.
They come with you when you go.
I need you to listen to me, please. Okay, there isn't much time. Now, this is gonna sound very, very strange, and you're not gonna believe me, and I wouldn't believe me either. Okay, and I wish there was more time to explain, but if you don't come with me right now, you're all going to die.
What the hell was that?
That was death,
It's Grandma. Come to the window.
and it's coming.
We have seen unbelievable shit in this place. Roads that lead nowhere. Monsters that come from the dark. According to Boyd,
There are evil fucking trees that trap you in dungeons.
People who were lost. They couldn't escape. She said they were holding on to hope, and when that hope was gone, they held on to each other.
No, you don't understand! There's something in the room!